Yo, hello.
What's on your mind?
Yo, Jay, can I get some clarity on the drama recently with Bishop writing a letter?
Did you see the other letter?
No.
Okay, well I posted it right under it. Why did you not read that one?
I did not see any response at that time.
Yeah, so the letter says that I have permission to talk about theology and he supports my work. The other letter says that I'm not an official representative of ROCOR. I'm not employed by ROCOR, hence freelance.
Okay, yeah. I mean, a lot of it was blacked out. Typical Catholic fashion, leaving out important details.
Well, I mean, yeah, who knows what's in the blacked out part, but I talked to my priest about it, and he said he was very close to Metropolitan Hilarion. By the way, Metropolitan Hilarion has passed away. For those people, the Roman Catholics think that this is like our bishop right now. He passed away. He's not alive anymore. But when I first joined ROCOR, I took all my articles to Father Vladimir, and I said, I don't want to be doing this publicly without permission to do so. And he wrote to the bishop, and the bishop was aware of what I did at that time, and he said that Jay's a good writer, a solid Orthodox apologist, and we need him in our time. Separate from that, a question was asked: does Jay officially represent ROCOR? And the answer was no. But they don't say that to anyone. No one gets like a free pass blessing to totally it's not like the Roman Catholic system where you get like an imprimatur or a nil obstat, right? Roman Catholics have this idea that anytime you do something like that, you got to get a nil obstat. But you can see right here what he wrote to my priest. He said, quote, "From what writings of J. Dyer I've read, I know that he is a solid Orthodox writer. I thank God for people like him who defend the Orthodox faith in difficult times like this." Does that sound like somebody who's reprimanding me in any way?
Sounds like quite the opposite.
Right. So the letter is saying he does not speak for ROCOR, but they wouldn't say that about any parishioner. They wouldn't say for Dr. Bo Branson or Dr. David Bradshaw, they are the voice of the OCA or the Antiochian Church. The one reason for that, too, is that I was talking to my priest about it. He said that bishops are very careful with the way that they word things because they can be legally liable, and people don't realize that, like, if somebody does something in the name of ROCOR, then it's like it could potentially be something legal. So they guard their words very carefully about how they say things. And so, no, and his point was that they're not going to give anyone like a blanket, quote, blessing to represent ROCOR or something like that, which, by the way, I never even said that. What I always said was that I have permission to talk about theology. And Father Vladimir said a layperson doesn't technically need the permission of the bishop to talk about theology. And in fact, that I went to them and got permission was actually a sign of humility.
Yes, but my next question is the fact that I've seen some YouTube videos call you a theologian, but I don't think you can be a theologian. Is that correct?
There is no official title in the Orthodox Church as to who can be called a theologian. I mean, there's some saints that are called, John the theologian, Gregory the theologian, but I don't even know what you're talking about. What are you referring to?
The great title.
Like people can't. I've never called myself that. I call myself a comedian. So.
Okay, yeah, just some YouTube videos, but I guess that's also.
Well, Father Deacon, you are also clergy. You could speak to this. I mean, everything Father Vladimir said was essentially what Father Deacon Ananias has always said. Like, laity can speak about things without you don't have to get permission from your bishop to do anything that you want to do, per se. But if you are going to talk about theology, it's good to have permission to do that. But that's not the same thing as, like, I mean, I suppose as Father Deacon, as a deacon, he represents his jurisdiction certainly more than a layperson, and clergy are held to a higher standard. But even laity or not, like, you don't have to get permission to do everything that you do, per se. But if you are going to talk about theology, it is a good practice to have permission to do so. Is that correct, Father Deacon?
Yes, and it just gives us a kind of a rubric and what's the word I'm looking for? A metric for who should I be listening to and who I shouldn't? Well, obviously, in such confusing times, that's why people go. Now, first of all, every ordained clergy has the blessing in virtue of the ordination to teach and preach, depending on what level of clergy you are, the administration of sacraments and things like that. So we've already had our blessings. But, even if we're going to do something big or something like that, where I would have an official capacity be representing the church, like, for example, the conference, like, that's all Episcopal blessing. And even that's not necessarily required, but like Jay says, it's in the good order of the church. It protects the bishop, protects the priests involved, myself, and the parishioners too. And so it definitely makes it clear when that's like, well, this is actually blessed. The rest of the stuff you don't know. So it's kind of practical and moral kind of and spiritual guidance that it's in the good order of the church to get blessings. But yeah, you don't become autistic and be like, well, I've got to get a blessing from my bishop to go to Home Depot. And because, here's somebody asked me about the gospel, I better call the bishop and ask. Do you see what I mean?
And by the way, don't priests have to get permission too? And I mean, wouldn't it be like you're saying about your conference? Like, it's good to have the blessing of the bishop to do the conference, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you don't get permission for everything you do and every time you talk. And by the way, this whole time I've always stressed that I have permission to talk about theology. That doesn't mean that I get everything right. If I get something wrong, I'm held accountable just like anybody else would be held accountable. And I'm not just held accountable by Father Vladimir. I would be held accountable by Father Deacon. All the people that are the clergy that are in his circles would hold me accountable. There's an accountability there at multiple levels, which is the purpose of the whole thing. It's not about like rule worship. It's about, are you held accountable? And the thing with a lot of the online Twitter profiles is that no one holds them accountable. They do whatever they want, say whatever they want. They say a lot of things that are wrong and have no permission at all. So it's totally different.
Yeah, can you help me figure out the psychology of this? We don't even know if most of them, I'd say about 98% of them, we don't even know if they're Orthodox. You don't know these people in person. They say all kinds of incorrect stuff. I want to know, why are people listening? Why are you listening to that?
Well, isn't there a lot of converts in America who live like 5 moons away from the nearest church? So Twitter's all they have.
Well, in some cases.
What I'm saying, though, is you don't know. So there's a lot of like people who are not Orthodox, a lot of subverters. So I just find a real kind of naivete that it's like, I don't even know if you ran into a random person on the street and they were like, oh, let me tell you something about your brother. And it's like, who are you? And it's like, well, don't worry about it. Would you believe some preposterous story about some random person you met? But yeah, everybody online, like they just listen to anything people say. I think a lot of it has to do with confirmation bias, especially people who are in position like clergy and your Orthodox brothers that you do know. You should give them the benefit of the doubt, and not the people who you can't actually confirm are Orthodox that have a blessing. These people are strangers. We have no idea. And I try to live by that. It's like, yeah, even clergy make mistakes and have been wrong, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and my Orthodox brothers before some random person. And what you look is, you can know them by their fruits. They're constantly stirring up turmoil and fighting, and it's demonic. And people are just so dumb and naive. It's like, those are the people they listen to. And you're free to do that. It's just unfortunate. It's to one's own spiritual and moral demise.
I mean, how many times have Orthodox priests and clergy and my own priest been on my live streams with me? How silly is this? Would he come on my live stream and we do a conference together and do an Italy pilgrimage together if he didn't give permission and if they didn't give permission for what I do? Just think I mean, look, I'm showing on the screen right here. This is our conference, our video we did last year promoting our pilgrimage. He used my channel to recruit people to go to the pilgrimage, but he doesn't want to support my work or be associated with me. Well, here he is right here with me talking about the history of the Renaissance. Here's an entire almost 2.5 hour talk on the Renaissance that we did. I mean, by the way, none of the people involved in any of this reached out to my priest. Any of them could just ask Father Vladimir, does Jay have permission to talk about this stuff? Why would he come on my channel if I didn't have permission? It's so stupid.
These people are not interested in truth. I'm going to give a stark warning to all of you, too, and forgive me if this is a bit harsh. If you listen to these people, if you judge your Orthodox brothers and other clergy member by listening to these people, you will be judged in the same way. You may find either in the kingdom to come on Judgment Day or in this life that you will be found in a similar position in which you're slandered and libels created, and you'll be held, right? That'll be put on you, and people, right? The same standard of, well, why don't I even investigate it? Like Jay said, you could call his priest, you could call the bishop, right? You can look at any of the clergy that have been slandered and look, it's all transparent.
And it's the same people that say that Father, it's the same people saying that you're defrocked, which is just made up.
Yeah, it takes 2 seconds just to look to see if any clergy member is in good standing. Well, there could be a day when you're accused and nobody looks at it, and you're held in trial, you're sentenced but ultimately that's the type of person that you become. That is what your judgment day will be. And I'm giving that as a harsh kind of warning. Knock it off for your own good and salvation, because it says in Scripture, you'll be judged by the same manner which you judge. So it's hurting you. It's not hurting us that much, right? We're just used to it. It's annoying and stuff like that. But the real tragedy of this is that's your judgment. It comes back on you, and you will be judged on Judgment Day the exact same way. Imagine if Christ said that, some stranger told me you weren't Orthodox, so that's the same standard, so depart from me, I never knew you. Can you imagine that?
Horrible.
It would be horrible, yeah. So for your own benefit, I love all of you, even our enemies. I don't wish you any, none of us, Jay, none of us. As Scripture says, you'll know them because they love one another and they love their enemies. We're saying these things because we want the very best, even for our enemies. Like, I don't want to see you perish and be judged that way. Like, just for your own good, knock it off. You know what I mean?
Thank you for that. It was a good question. Thank you for your comments, Father Deacon. By the way, I mean, how many times have we had Father Moses on, Father John Whiteford on, like multiple ROCOR priests, Father Deacon Patrick, which I don't know if he's in ROCOR, what jurisdiction he's in, but it doesn't matter. Like, they'll just come up with some thing. By the way, the letter was 5 years ago. So maybe that was around the same time as he wrote the email saying that he liked my work. So maybe 5 years ago, there was some level of questioning in the mind of, Metropolitan Nicholas. And it had to do with the very same people online that Father Deacon Ananias is talking about, and the stuff that they were spreading online. Because at that time, they were saying that I don't actually go to any church. I'm not Orthodox. I made up that I converted. Same people were saying the same stuff 5 years ago, right? And so, in response to that person, the original email was about his work is good. And I mean, do you notice that none of these people even mentioned that email from... No,
they won't. And by the way, don't be naive that, they're just missing information if they knew and you showed them. You could pull together an ecumenical council. All the bishops on an issue, like, you know what they'll say? Well, all those bishops are Soviet bishops. This is Sergianism, and it's a robber council.
Yeah, it's Roman Catholics, it's people who are Latinizers in the Orthodox Church, and it's literally like a group of like 10 people. It's not even like, it's not some like massive it's like a small network of people who are allowed on Twitter. It's a bunch of nobodies. Anyway,